but I believe you also have foreign fighters with you on the rebel side. You said there have been volunteers from other countries who've joined you.
Yeah, Gaddafi's yesterday, and that's...
No, but on your side, on this side, on the rebel side, there are also foreigners who've joined you. You were telling the Egyptians.
Yeah, they're living with us here. Some people, they're married from Libya, and some people, they're working here. They're sharing us, really, yeah.
So it's okay for you to have foreigners fighting with you, but
no,
not okay...
we disagree. We don't want any foreigners. That's the revolution. And we made it, and we started, and we broke out it. And inshallah, we'll get Gaddafi out of our country, and we'll take him to the court, and we'll try him and his regime, and even the mercenaries. He brought them to kill our people. We will charge the countries
Osama,
like Chad and Nigeria and Kenya.
Thank you very much for telling us about the latest fighting in Bin Jawad. That was a member of the rebel force, a volunteer, just filling us in on some of the latest fighting in which he's participated in the town of Bin Jawad, just to the west of here. Back to you.
Jackie, that was a fascinating discussion you were having with Osama there. Just a very quick question. While you were talking, we could hear weapons being set off in the background, and there seemed to be a lot of raised voices. Is there a lot of tension there where you are? I mean, what is the mood?
People are very excitable. I mean, as I was just having that conversation with Osama, one of the points I was making, Tim, is that lots of people have been injured here by volunteers, inexperienced people firing off weapons. People fire them off. It's posing to a certain extent. People fire weapons into the air. The kind of noise that you were hearing in the background, this was people maybe just learning how to use a weapon for the first time, or firing it off in the spirit of optimism and patriotism. People are really living on their nerves here. The mood swings one moment from panic, the next moment to jubilation. So it is an unstable situation, and you're looking at a very, very mixed bag of soldiers here, most of them inexperienced, and really the one thing that unites them all is, as we heard from Osama, this passionate conviction that they are fighting for the good of their country and for the liberation of Libya. Back to you.
And one of them standing with an extremely large gun behind you there, Jackie. Thanks very much indeed for that for the moment. Jackie Rowland in Braga there. Let's cross to Benghazi, where the uprising began and where many schools and businesses are still closed. Hoda Abdelhamid is there. Hoda, as we hear the news of these renewed clashes between protesters and pro-Gaddafi forces, do the rebels there fear that they're losing the initiative?
Well, I think military commanders are a bit worried. I spoke to several today, and those volunteers that Jackie was describing are somehow an asset and a liability at the moment, because they're overexcited. They want to go to the front. They don't want. It's very difficult to put them under some sort of structure. Now, the military commanders who are here, the senior ones, are telling me that they fear that actually all this retreat of the Gaddafi forces that we've seen over the past weeks might have been a tactical retreat to try to have the rebels and the other forces advance towards Sirte. They say that in Sirte there's an incredible amount of sophisticated weaponry, that there's, if you go close to Sirte, then even if the international community imposes a no-fly zone, it doesn't really matter, because they say that the Gaddafi forces have long-range surface missiles and other rocket launchers that do go quite a far way. So there is an initiative here in Benghazi to try to have all these forces retreat to Ras Lanouf and try to make some sort of structure and some sort of plan on how to advance. So there's certainly a feeling that things are at a deadlock, and we might see a more formidable counteroffensive by the Gaddafi side than we have seen over the past week.
So it looks and feels very much like it's going to be a protracted fight. How are they for supplies, for medical supplies, for food, for the basics?
Well, I think if you speak to humanitarian organizations here, they say that at the moment the food is not a big problem. The border with Egypt is open, and some goods are coming in. Libya relies about 70% of its food imports come from Egypt and Turkey. So they say that that is at the moment not an issue. Now, medical supplies are an issue. There's a lot of medical organizations that came into the country. They're helping as much as they can. They're distributing medicines, but there is a fear that the phase 2 of the battle, as some commanders described it to me, is coming soon, and it could be much bloodier than what we have seen so far.
OK, Hoda, thanks very much indeed for that. Hoda Abdulhamid in Benghazi there. Well, world leaders and experts have been debating whether to impose a no-fly zone in Libya, and if so, who would run it? The UN and NATO are the main players. Kristen Salimi looks at the UN's record of implementing no-fly zones.
Please, United Nations, save Libya.
The impassioned pleas of the Libyan delegation to the United Nations inspired the international community to enact sanctions against Libya's Muammar Gaddafi and sparked what has become an international debate over one possible next step, a no-fly zone.
Something has to be done concerning the declaring a non-fly zone on all the cities of Libya.
The last time the UN Security Council authorized a no-fly zone was in 1992 over Bosnia during that country's civil war. It took a year to get all members of the council on board.
Do you think the Security Council will get around to imposing a no-fly zone?
I think it's very likely if the conflict doesn't end soon, if the humanitarian situation gets worse.
Mohammed Sakrbi was Bosnia's UN ambassador at the time.
Yes, Bosnia is Europe, Libya is North Africa, but it seems that overwhelmingly there is a similar desire to see the UN Security Council be more assertive in bringing the conflict to an end, as well as helping the civilian population.
But it's the no-fly zone imposed on Iraq in the 90s and kept in place for more than a decade that gives some Security Council diplomats pause. Enacted primarily by the U.S. and the United Kingdom, without international backing, it is now associated with the controversial U.S.-led invasion of Iraq. Some diplomats, including veto-wielding members China and Russia, have expressed reservations about taking action that could be seen as promoting regime change and that could set the stage for long-term military commitments. But Sakrbi believes the Security Council has already crossed that line.
There is not only a cost to intervention, there is a cost to non-intervention. There is a cost to not applying the no-fly zone. And that cost is that you may have to do more in the end. You may be facing a much more complex situation, and you may have to use significantly greater force to bring about the desired result.
At this stage, the Security Council has shown no inclination for further action on Libya. But the calls for a no-fly zone are likely to continue as long as Muammar Gaddafi remains in power. And the more Libyans who die, the harder it will be for those calls to be ignored. Kristen Salimi, Al Jazeera, the United Nations.
Well, let's talk about events in Libya with Awad El Fatouri from the Libyan Information Centre here in Doha, who joins us now. Awad, I know that you're in contact with people in Libya, and there is fighting ongoing in AlJazeera as we speak. Tell me what's happening over there.
Fighting is still going on. As a matter of fact, I've just heard that I've lost one of my friends and one of my